Hello, I'm Dr. Leon Stutzman, aka Doc, with another one of these little videos designed to help you to get through these strange days in which we find ourselves. And these are strange days. These are strange days indeed. This week I want to talk about the soundtrack of your mind, because there's a continual, constant soundtrack going on in your mind that's saying something to you. There's a definite correlation between the prophetic and music. I was driving down the road listening to an easy listening jazz station when the announcer said, "And that's a new tune from Jermaine Mondane." And I thought, Jermaine Mondane? Pulled out my cell phone, scrolled down through the contacts, came to Jermaine's number, called him up. He answered. I said, "This is Doc. I just heard your tune on the radio." He laughed. He said, "Yes, and my new album is going national." And I said, amen to that. Why? Because a few months before, in our New Year's Eve service, Jermaine had attended with this pastor. I've known them both for many years. I asked him to play. He played the saxophone, led us in some prophetic music. It was powerful. And I gave him a prophetic word saying that your music ministry is going to open up. You're going to have a national platform. And in just a few months, it had happened. There's a definite correlation between the prophetic and music. In 2 Kings, the 3rd chapter, the 15th verse, Jehoram, the king of Israel, and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, were going out against a combined enemy. They called the prophet of God, and the prophet of God just looked at them, shook his head. He looked at Jehoram and said, "If it weren't for Jehoshaphat, I wouldn't regard you," because the prophetic doesn't regard any one's person. The prophetic just is. He said, "Bring me a minstrel." They brought a minstrel. The minstrel began to pray, and Elisha began to prophesy. There's a definite correlation between music and the prophetic. How many times have you woke up with a song going on in your head and going on and on and on, and you tried to get rid of it? Did you actually listen to it? You've gone through the day, and suddenly a song popped into your head. What is that song all about? I love all kinds of music. When I talk about music and the prophetic, I'm not just necessarily talking about listening to good gospel music. I love good gospel music. I love contemporary Christian music. I love old hymns of the church. But I also love all kinds of other music. In fact, my musical tastes are quite Catholic, often to my wife's dismay, as we're going down the road and I'm going to the radio stations, because I've discovered something. And there's some scientific basis for this, and I'll not bore you with on this little video, but there's some scientific basis for this. Music puts you in a frame of mind where you're able to actually focus inwardly instead of focusing outwardly. See, our problem most of the time is we don't hear from God because we're focusing outwardly instead of focusing inwardly. This week, we're going to learn how to focus inwardly. We're going to learn how to listen to that little soundtrack that goes on in the mind. We're going to discover the significance of that soundtrack that's going on in your mind, and it has significance. In fact, I want to encourage you to do something. This week, write down some of the songs that keep going on over and over and over in your mind. And then learn to develop the soundtrack of your mind. I know I was going through a really difficult time in my life, and I woke up one morning and I heard this little tune going over and over in my head. "How are they increased to trouble me? Many are they that rise up against me. Many are they that say of my soul, there is no help for him in God. But thou, O Lord, are a shield for me, the glory and the lifter of my head." That, you might recognize that from the Psalms. And when I heard that song, I knew I was going to have victory. What's the soundtrack in your mind saying to you today? I'll share some things with you on Wednesday that will help you to develop that soundtrack. I'm Dr. Leon Stutzman, aka Doc. This Sunday at Aspire Church, I'm starting a new series of messages designed for the strange days in which we find ourselves, called Inspiration, Revelation, Motivation, and More. We're going to look at all those things: inspiration, revelation, motivation, and more. It's going to be powerful stuff that'll help you to succeed and excel in these strange days. You can catch it live on the live stream at aspirechurch.tv, on Facebook at Aspire Church TV. That's Facebook, Aspire Church TV, live stream aspirechurch.tv. Of course, in the tri-state area, we're also on live radio during our Sunday morning worship service. 10 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. This Sunday is going to be powerful. I'll see you Wednesday and show you how to develop the soundtrack that's in your mind.